Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us here on the Noon News. I'm Samantha Sullivan. We are following breaking news this afternoon. A former high school athletic trainer in Miles City is arrested today on child pornography charges. James Jensen faces 10 counts of possession of child pornography. That's according to a release from the Montana Department of Justice. The release states an investigation began in September, shortly after the Custer County attorney first became aware of allegations that Jensen had sexually abused minors while he was a trainer at the school. Alleged victims report the abuse began in the 1970s until Jensen left the school decades later. The investigation found that the alleged abuse occurred outside the statute of limitations, therefore Jensen could not be prosecuted. However, during the investigation, law enforcement received information that Jensen was in possession of child pornography. An initial court appearance has not yet been set. In other news this afternoon, a silent crisis took front and center at the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday. The deaths and disappearances of hundreds of Native American women in America brought forth gut-wrenching testimony from those who've lost loved ones. Senator Jon Tester calling the number of missing and murdered Indigenous women an epidemic, a growing problem that he says tribal police, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the FBI need to work better together to solve. MTN's Russ Riesinger has more.
You cannot step foot in Indian country without hearing a heartbreaking story about this growing problem, and that is why we are here today.
Senator Jon Tester telling the Senate committee that at least 24 Native Americans have gone missing in Montana this year alone.
So the first question is do you guys believe that there is a problem with missing and murdered Indigenous women? A simple yes or no answer will work.
Yes, I believe there is a problem.
Good.
Yes, sir, I do.
Yep.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Tester demanding answers from the feds, but not getting many.
Why haven't we found more of them? What is the problem?
Well, I think there needs to be more coordination at the beginning. When we have a missing person.
Coordination between who?
A coordination between the search and rescue group, the law enforcement, everybody that's involved.
Thank you for allowing me to speak for my sister Ashley.
Ashley Loring Heavy Runner has been missing since June of 2017. Her sister Kimberly testified that Blackfeet tribal police and the BIA seemed dismissive because the missing woman was 20 years old, a legal adult, and that a sweater that might have provided evidence was lost.
If they would have taken her serious as a person, because we are important, I believe that my sister would have been here or we would have had closure.
I'll go back to where I started, and that is if we'd have a different reaction if this was non-Native. I'm just telling you, it'd be a different reaction.
One of the biggest issues in solving so many of these cases, a lack of communication between different agencies. Senator Tester saying that was the only real answer to come from yesterday's hearing. The senator says he does hope there will be another hearing on this issue when the new Congress takes over. Plans to build a new American Indian Hall at MSU in Bozeman will move forward. Jim and Chris Scott of Billings and Terry and Pat Payne of Missoula each donated $1 million to help complete the fundraising goal. MTN's Patrice Parks has more.
I'm here at the MSU campus standing next to this teepee sculpture created by local artist Jim Dolan. The university says this sculpture has served as a reminder about its commitment to build this hall for Native American students. And now that commitment, that dream, is one step closer to a reality.
The university is extraordinarily grateful to the Scott and the Payne families for these donations of $1 million apiece that have really helped push us over the finish line for the American Indian Hall project. This is something that's been in the works for 13 years. We've had this promise out there for the Native American communities that we would have this building on campus for our American Indian students. And we're finally able to provide that to them. And this is something that's going to change not only the student experience at MSU for generations to come, but also help build a stronger Montana for everybody.
One of the challenges that our students face when they come to MSU is that it's for some a long way from home. So our goal is to try to create a home for them here, but not necessarily so that they're going away to school, but rather coming home to a place where their ancestors once lived And so our hope is that they'll find the Native American Student Center or the American Indian Hall as a place that they can feel comfortable with and share and come back to their homelands.
The university says it plans to hold a groundbreaking for this hall in March of 2019. Reporting from MSU, Patrice Parks, MTN News.
Thanks, Patrice. And the entire project comes with a price tag of $20 million and includes numerous donations over the years. The hall will include classrooms, the Department of Native American Studies, and an auditorium as well. The university says the project should be complete by 2021. And now we'll turn things over to Ed in the Weather Center. Ed, it sounds like we might be in for a little bit of a show tonight.
That's right, the Gemini Meteor Shower. This is one of those displays that oftentimes gets overlooked just a little bit because of the chilly weather this time of the year, but with a little milder temperatures we've been experiencing, might be a great time to go out and check this one out. It'll be happening overnight tonight. Best time to look is probably from around 11 o'clock until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. The closer to 6 a.m. really is going to be a little better, with meteors perhaps every minute or two. Just settle yourself back a little bit. You don't need any telescopes or binoculars. In fact, you're just better to look in the dark part of the sky, give your eyes time to adjust, and then enjoy the show as much as you can. Come back and take a look at the weather forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Ed. Authorities are investigating a break-in at Flathead High School. Police say janitors noticed someone had forced entry through a window and entered the school. An undisclosed amount of cash was stolen from one of the school's safes. Anyone with information is asked to call the Kalispell Police. Montana Tech in Butte now making some modifications to its recently proposed budget cuts. The original recommendations released last month proposed about 13 cuts to faculty and 10 to staff at the university. After 2 public hearings and unease on campus, a second draft was released which puts 3 faculty back into the budget. In the original draft, programs such as healthcare and informatics and technical writing departments were done away with, but this new draft moves to partially save these departments as well.
It's been a difficult process, you know, when you're talking about people and their livelihoods and degrees. When this is all said and done, Montana Tech is going to be a stronger institution, better poised to move forward as, again, Montana's only special focus university.
The final revised budget is expected to be released late this afternoon. Tomorrow, a committee will vote on whether or not to endorse it. However, the final decision will come from the school's chancellor. Right now, the halls of the Montana State Capitol are quiet, but in just under a month, all of that will change. Every 2 years, Helena experiences a burst of activity as lawmakers, lobbyists, and the public head to the capital city for the state legislative session. A lot of preparation goes in before the session's start date, as lawmakers only have 90 days to get things done. So far, the first crop of bills has already been written. Several dozen are pre-introduced to be heard in the first few days of the session. Lawmakers have already filed nearly 3,000 requests for bill drafts. That's more than in 2017, but do keep in mind not all of those draft requests actually get introduced. Well, thanks so much for joining us here on the Noon News. Coming up, an accused Russian spy gets her day in court. More on that when we come back. But first, Ed's in with a look towards the weekend. The full forecast is coming up right after the break.
Watching MTN News with Samantha Sullivan, Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh, and Farm and Ranch News from the Northern Ag Network. This is the Noon News on Q2, Montana's news leader.